Thank you very much, Chetan. We move straight along to our first panel, Banking in an Increasingly Digital World. Ram, if I could invite you back up on stage to host this.
There was one statement that Chetan made that got me worried. He said the fintechs are younger people than the bankers. I disagree. We are now on to the first panel discussion for the day. So while we are having our virtual speaker join us, may I invite my panelists? My first panelist on stage is Dr. Ahmed Darwish Elsayed. He is the head of digital delivery at Bank Albilad and formerly was with Al Raji and prior to that with Alinma Bank and IBM. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand together to welcome Dr. Ahmed. My second speaker for the day also shares the name. We have Ahmed Gundur, who is the Managing Director for Backbase. Ahmed, welcome on stage. While he comes on stage, may I actually also mention that he carries one of the most enviable track record of actually having seen the technology world from various angles. Ahmed used to work prior to his current role at Backbase with Volante and prior to that with Oracle, Mises and Temenos. So I was kidding with him yesterday that it's like actually being, you get this, if you're in a Formula One race and you actually want to have a view, you generally get to see the view only from one seat. But he's probably one of the very few who has seen it from various angles. So we're going to have some very interesting insights from you today, Ahmed. Hi, David. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David Jimenez. David is a digital bank builder, chief product and experience officer. His career, apart from stealth digital-only bank, also includes a role of being the former deputy CEO and co-founder at 10x. And more importantly, or rather most importantly, he has the distinct privilege of having been a lecturer in digital banking. So we have someone who is going to also be giving us some insights from an academic standpoint as well, in addition to his role as a chief product and experience officer. So with that, let me join the team. For those of you who came in a little late, my name is Ram. I'm a senior partner with Cedar, and I will be the moderator for the day. So I'm going to start this discussion with you, Dr. Ahmed. Am I audible? Yeah, okay. So, one of the things that we heard this morning, and in fact there was a question that you posed as well, that talks about how banks have been adopting their digital strategies, right? Now, there are two parts to this. One is about what they are doing as a strategy, be it in terms of driving this on their own or driving it with partnerships and embracing what would be the right technology. And the second part of my question is, and there are people in the room here who actually are data scientists and people who are coming in with a focus on artificial intelligence. So if you could also throw some light on what you think is the criticality of data and AI as banks unfold their digital strategy.
Sure. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for having me today. I'm very happy to be in this big event for the first time. And I always was looking to have myself in Cedar events as one of the famous and preferred events in the globe.
Thank you.
Globally. The first part of the question is about implementing the strategy. For sure, having a strategy is one of the critical things that we have in banking, especially with the fast and vast move of the market toward digital transformation and innovation. Being just in the digital transformation is not enough. You have to be also innovative in order to be able to compete. I think this is So in order to be able to compete, you have also to look for innovative ideas where you can bring new things to the market to differentiate yourself. So when you take a decision about where you want to be and in which areas you want to compete as part of the strategy, you have to consider also the execution of that strategy. And the execution is normally a big challenge, especially with this fast-moving and disruptive market. Today, you might be thinking about implementing a solution, and then within the middle of developing that solution, you might find a new technology came and disrupting the market, and maybe some other competitors start capturing this, let's say, technology, like what happened to the ChatGPT, for example. So the execution of the strategy is one of the most critical parts for the organization in order to continue competing and in order to reflect the dream of that strategy into reality. If it remains as a strategy, it remains as a dream. But when it comes to execution and tactics, where you have to convert this strategy into initiatives, and that those initiatives should go into the market, as we mentioned and our colleague just mentioned in the previous market status, you have to be agile. So you have to go first with the MVP and then build on top of that as you go. Sometimes you might be thinking about, I will build the MVP, then let's say this function or that part first. Then when it comes that you launch the MVP to the market, you start swapping things and start thinking about maneuver, because the market response and appetite to the MVP of the service maybe was not the expected. Taban, part of what we are doing in the execution is that before we go to the market, we try to get some market insights and appetite from the usability testing. So we bring actual users of the application or the feature or the function or the service into the bank, where we have today Horizon as an innovation center within Bank Albilad, or other banks also have some kind of innovation centers or digital factory. We bring actual users of the service into the bank and ask them questions about the service, how important it is, what is your habits and traditions in using such kind of services, and your maybe day-to-day activities. Today, banks are not only building services for financial kind of things. Today, we are considering the lifestyle of the customer. Today, you want to pay something while you are in the middle of a meeting, or you want to do a transaction or approval while you are driving even your car or in the traffic light. So it's not today as a traditional financial services that we used to see before. So agility is one of the key important things. The second point is the dependency. Before, the governance and regulation used to be every 2-3 years. Today we might see a new regulation coming every few months. So that dynamic change, even in the nature of the regulation and how regulators are responding to the market, is now becoming another challenging factor. However, we accept this because without regulation sometimes you cannot do things. Yani, I was just in a discussion with someone from one of our other countries in the GCC. He was complaining about that there is no open banking framework like what we have in Saudi Arabia. So what they are actually doing today is just, an initiative from 1 or 2 organizations to have open banking working there and start sharing data. But with the framework that we have in Saudi, and thanks to Sama for this, we can start building and having that market growing with the use cases of account information or aggregation and payment initiation, which should be published this quarter. So having regulation also in the country is very important to help you to execute. The third point, which was also mentioned in the presentation, is the infrastructure. So Saudi Arabia today is very advanced when it comes to infrastructure of digital. It helps you with ilm, with nafadh, with muqim, with yaqeen. All these services is now very useful for us to build on top of it. So when any new service came into the market, this might also help you to fastly execute your digital strategy. One of the last point that I need to mention is the organization agility. This is also one of the key aspects. You are not building the solution or the service alone. You are dealing with compliance, with operation risk, with other impacted departments within the organization. So if those are not agile enough to help you move fast, okay, this will be a challenge. For sure, your partners from the other side, for example, fintechs and TPPs, as mentioned, they are small organizations where they have agility, they don't have legacy, they don't have these kind of things. So delivering things as part of the strategy with those partners need also your internal divisions to be fast and agile. That's from my point.
Very, very insightful, Dr. Ahmed. I mean, I'm just summarizing what I heard you speak. I think if I have to get my digital strategy right, then I should know where I'm competing. I should be clear on how am I going to execute it. I should be clear about my customer expectations and lifestyle. You did talk about aligning with regulators. I think there are quite a few people here from SAMA. That's a nice compliment that you actually got to hear from Dr. Ahmed about how you find, no, I'm seriously, the regulations in this market actually taking a lead in driving a lot of things on the digital landscape, and that's very important, and an alignment with that. And of course, leveraging the infrastructure we have here and making sure that your organization is agile to actually get that adopted. But I actually going to be jumping from you to David here, right? Because some of this, David, I think, going back to, the brief exchange that you and I had, is really about, where we see any digital roadmap having, at least as we speak in 2024, we do see that AI is actually being integral to the approach, right? And I know you're a big, advocate of AI adoption. So, I do want you to speak about that. But if you could also help share with us your views on what factors should banks bear in mind as, they embrace, quote unquote, the digital roadmap, and if they have to do it effectively. So, David.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the invitation, and apologies for not being there. Let me jump into the question. I think we all agree the potential that we see on AI. There is one thing we tend, as a bankers, is we tend to start looking for the technology and then find the use cases. I think we need to start from the customer. How AI can help us, to achieve what we want. And I'm talking about not only the front end and how we engage. I think we have seen a dramatic change in the way we engage with customers. In a way, we want our customers, to have a personalized experience, and how AI can help us. But I think there are 4 pillars. I always structure the way working with AI. First is the data strategy, right? What are we trying to do? How AI can help us? I think Chiran was mentioning in the previous presentation, talent. We have a huge amount of people that will be not replaced, will be working with data. How many data scientists we have, how many data engineers, how many data analysts. I still haven't seen many chief data officers in Saudi Arabia in most of the banks. I think most of the banks, they treat data as a nice to have, and it's not part of core strategy for them. I think we need to sit down, understand what are the business cases, which one has more potential in terms of like reducing all the manual work that most of the banks, most of the back office teams are doing. How we leverage new technologies. Chiran was mentioning like a digital self onboarding with NAFAT. No need to sign any forms I remember going to many different branches. I visited more branches in Saudi Arabia than in the past 15 years to open a bank there, because most of the banks, they require at some point to drop by the branch and become like a branch of customers. Otherwise, your limits and your a number of functionality you can be able to do through digital channels will be very limited. And at the end, it's the whole strategy, like what banks are trying to achieve, and how AI can leverage, because we have seen huge potential on this technology. I think we're in this 2007 2008 iPhone moment, but with AI we see that the clear use cases. But it's time, to take it seriously. I remember when I started working for mobile banking, it was called alternative channels, right? And it was that for very few years. So I think we need to take AI seriously. It has to be by the foundation of what are the data available and what are the technology that it's supporting, CDP, data platform, data lakes, how we're going to be structuring that data, because we have a huge amount of data. Fortunately, most of that we are not using correctly, or it's in silos, and different teams are using data in different ways. So how we can structure the data, how we enable teams to start working by giving insights, by giving reports, but then start going into a more deeper direction where our employees and our customers they get more personalized advice. They have more services. So I see that AI will give us this Spotify moment where I open my bank account and my bank account will be different than my panelists, and how banks can leverage that user experience to delight customers, because we're looking for something that it was unheard of until 2 years ago, and now we see the potential use cases with the generative AI in across many different use cases.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was not too long ago that we actually had quote unquote alternative channels, right? I still remember. I mean, it's what's mainstream today is was an alternative. And I totally agree. I think having the data strategy in place is a prerequisite before you could actually get anything going on AI. And that actually brings me to the question to you, Ahmed. Now, a lot of this and what we spoke so far, right? I mean, we talked about driving a digital landscape, embracing, AI. We're talking about having a data strategy. So what, in your view, is how is technology playing a role in shaping what you would eventually call as the seamless digital customer journey, right? Because, I mean, between the point where the customer experiences and to the point where we are designing it, I think there is a whole long 9 yards that actually is being filled in by technology. So how do you see that happening? And again, if you could also elaborate on how you see technology partners that banks are looking to have play a role in effectively helping that customer journey be seamless.
Sure, definitely. So thank you first. I'll start with your initial comment that you've mentioned that I've passed through all those vendors in my career.
Yes.
So the shortest answer is basically there are different ways to look at vendors, especially with whatever they're doing. So if you look at the core banking vendors or the trade vendors or those vendors look at the client in terms, they look what the client requires in order to facilitate what the bank or the financial institution needs, and they try to serve those needs. But when you're looking at digital banking vendors, they don't look at what the client needs, they look at what the clients need, right? So it's a completely different approach to the problem. And that's the interesting part of it. On top of that, every single project that you run in any financial institution or in any bank is considered a project, except for the digital banking project or the digital front-end project, whatever digital transformation project, because it's never a project. The project has a start date and has an end date. Digital does not have an end date. It's a continuous thing that keeps going and going and going. And you cannot really hold back on these things, because if you hold back, everyone is in the race. You're going to lose the race. So if we agree on those basic points, we do understand how important it is to invest in your digital transformation, but at the same time, to invest in it where it makes sense to your end user or to your client. So we always say we build our solution around our customer, but our customers in this point is not the bank. It's actually the customer's customer. So with the rise of AI, with the rise of the integration with all the supportive agencies that are currently present. For example, in Saudi, we have SIMA, we have Abshir, we have Tika, we have all these, let's say, accelerators that I would say that enhance that personalized journey for the client. We see AI as well becoming a factor, and it's a requirement, right? So why does a client come to a bank to begin with? They need help, they need support, they need financial help, because there are a couple of things that they cannot do. The conventional way of doing things, they used to go to the branch, but then the branch is depending on the capacity of that individual, his knowledge and his ability to help that client and their needs. While when you put AI into the picture, I think AI will definitely enhance the customer experience, which is, I think, is one of the main pillars that AI should be introduced in digital banking. So, for example, if we look at a retail client, for example, that retail client needs to help budgeting, savings, needs help in sometimes in taking financial decisions, as well as they need their own personalized journeys, because then you have different generations getting retail banking from the clients, from Gen Zs, from Gen X, from whatever you call them, the millennials, from our old generation. Everyone is looking for a certain experience and is thinking in a different way. And that's where AI fits in on the retail side. If you look at the business side of the banking, so business banking, corporate banking, you're looking about around, so what is the toughest, let's say, journey that a client would go in a bank? Let's take, for example, one of the toughest ones is a complex loan for a business, right? Usually there's a lot of friction, there's a lot of back and forth details, there's a lot of friction in this process, there's a lot of documents, there's a lot of unnecessary steps that needs to be made. While with AI, for example, you can use AI as an advisor to hold your hand, take you through one step at a time, and you get that in a very seamless manner. You go to the wealth side, you have the affluent, you have the ultra high net worth, you have a lot of different generations, different classifications of those people. But they are all for one reason, right? They want to invest, they want to make money. So giving them that AI-enabled experience, which will help guide them based on the goals that they want to set for themselves, that's definitely an added value. Now, having said all this, there will be challenges. So the challenges, for example, on the security side, what would you do on the security side of AI? What will happen to that information so when AI is introduced, so if you're using AI in your banking experience, you're exposing data to that AI tool, and that is something that I think, in my own opinion, is an area that we need clarification on. Not to say we need improvement. I don't understand it yet, but how it's going to work, right? Because you can take AI so far. You can take AI to up to an extent where you just have your phone in your pocket. You just ask a question: "What's my balance?" It should tell you. It can tell you, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a bot. You should ask AI to transfer money from your account without you logging into your bank account. That's the benefit of an AI. That's an experience. But how would you do it if you're not secure on your data? If you do not have enough expertise, as David mentioned, right? You need a lot of expertise in this manner, because it will evolve and you will face challenges, right? It's not a simple, dumb tool. It is an idiot tool, but it's learning and it's interacting with your information. And I think this is where a little bit of more work needs to be done. But as an overall, I believe there's a huge sea of opportunity in this on this topic. And that's what we are currently discussing as Backbase with multiple of our clients in Saudi.
Fantastic.
One of them being Albilad as well.
I think that's a lot of food for thought. And I know the next panel is actually having a more detailed discussion around this. So maybe, Chetan, this is fodder for you to reflect in your discussion. I am actually, and by the way, before I take this forward, you made a reference that something that actually starts, but you don't have an end date, and you're getting into a partnership, watchful about what you are getting into as partnership, because there is no start and end date. It's not just about vendor partners, but also about marriage, I guess. So it's almost like you're getting married to, to this forever, right? So you got to watch for that, yeah. Yeah, but I completely agree. I think the point you made about this is not about the customer, but the customer's customer. And it is not about looking at what the bank wants, but what the bank's customer wants, and keeping that in mind. I think that's very well articulated, Ahmed. I think that's a very important takeaway for all of us. Well, I'm actually going to the second round of this, and this is more like a rapid fire, if I may. Saudi is going through, and the same question to all the panelists. Saudi is at the forefront. The kingdom is in the forefront of driving digital transformation in recent times, right? We have seen so much happen in the last, let's say 5 years. Now, if you have to pick one big opportunity that kingdom should look at for the immediate future, what would you pick? I want to start with you, and then we'll go with others.
That's a very difficult question to answer. I think banking as a service and open banking, yani this maybe could be considered as one stream of new opportunities. Exposing your internal banking services to your partners, it should be done in a very efficient and professional way. With the expansion of fintechs in Saudi to reach 550 fintechs by 2030, shows that there is a huge opportunity for the market growth in different domains: payments, account aggregation, financing, trade finance, SME. So I believe that open banking and banking as a service is a big opportunity for the growth in Saudi Arabia, and with the statistics for sure. I was presenting embedded finance as one of the key concepts that should come into Saudi, and we are in discussion with Sama on this topic. Embedded finance is a huge opportunity to have the financing as part of the journey of the customer with any retail, let's say, partner. So you don't have to have a bank or even a wallet to get that embedded finance service to you. Yani while you are paying, let's say, for a ticket for Saudi Airlines, you can get buy now, pay later option like what we have today. Similar things, if you are doing any kind of transaction, you can have the financing part or the financial transaction or service embedded within the journey without you have to feel so. And this started by Amazon opening accounts for their corporate customers while they are onboarding themselves without they notice this. Today, something like this should happen here in Saudi, as we are one of the leading countries in the digital transformation, and we are expecting something to come very soon, as well as some regulation for the banking as service and e-wallets in Saudi.
Interesting. Open banking, embedded finance, e-wallets, and that's your pick. Ahmed.
I'm going to answer the question that maybe I'm going to answer with an answer that maybe some of you would consider cliche. It's not. What we're looking here, we're looking at a market that looks like Dubai 35 years ago or 30 years ago, but on steroids. So everything is an opportunity. There's a lot of opportunities, and those opportunities are coming from every direction. I'll give you some of the examples, and I'll leave those notes that at least those are my opinion on the table, right? We're seeing a country that's having a growth in its population. We're seeing a country that's having a growth in the services, in the economy, and in every single direction. We see SME growing. We see there has been a big sector in the economy that has not been serviced. Sole proprietors, freelancers, SMEs, those are all underserviced industry. We look at the expats that are coming. They do not have the right, let's say, banking from day one experience up until they fully reside and settle into the country. We see a lot of the family banking that is not happening. And when we talk about family banking is key to the banks because that's an early acquisitions of clients, and that's an early that's really a lot of savings on the cost of sale or on the cost of acquisition of clients. We see a lot of things on the lending space. We are now seeing buy now pay later introduced to the market, but that buy now pay later can really generate multiple other products like similar to buy now pay later. Consider micro lending, 3-4 payments, and that is for very limited individuals who need to do something. That's an untapped market. Freelancers, you have more than 2 million freelancers in the country. There is no bank that treats them as freelancers, as corporate or let's say sole proprietors. There's a lot of opportunity in the market. If you look at the mortgage lending with all these projects that are being developed in the country, I am sure mortgage lending has a long way to go, with a lot of the enhanced customer experience. But on top of it, right, we have a vision by a country driven, and the central bank and SAMA are really supporting in every single possible way. You don't see all these integrations, all this seamless onboarding, for example. It's in Saudi. And I think they are leading in this space. Why are they leading? Because there's a government that is supporting all these journeys with whatever it takes to make it easier, seamless, and better.
Brilliant.
Right? So I believe the opportunities everywhere.
Opportunities everywhere. I mean, this is inspiring. Inspiration everywhere, right? But I have to admit that the first round you talked about marriage, the second round you talked about family banking. I really appreciate that. All right, I'm moving to David. I think the same question to you. So if you have to make a pick on the next big opportunity, what would that be?
I think contextual banking. I think what my fellow panelists they were mentioning. We're going into an era where the lines between banking and other industries are blurring in a much faster pace. We see a big trend of buy now pay later, how Tavi, Tamara, they reach millions of customers by giving flexibility on their payment side. We see a lot of fintech coming into savings, wealth management solution. So we're gonna see how e-commerce, how Noon we're gonna start offering more payments into the platforms. So we're seeing in an era where banks they need to collaborate with fintech, where we can leverage new business model where we create platforms where we partner with different vendors, and where sometimes we serve customers, sometimes we give service to platforms, and sometimes we are the BaaS, the banking as a service layer. So there is multiple touch points and multiple strategies for the future. I agree with the statement. As SAMA, it's really helping to put a framework across all these multiple work streams, and it's helping us, to have a level playing field to start playing, and start interacting in a better way with our customers.
Thank you, David. I think there's a bit of a disruption in the internet quality, but I think you're talking about having the level playing field, and I think there's a lot happening as we speak. In fact, a lot of discussion earlier about how the infrastructure in this country and the government support and the sponsorship, coming in, making a big, real impact to players in the industry. Well, I will have to draw the curtains on this panel. I've been given some signals behind that we're running out of time. But may I say a big thank you to the panelists. If you can put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen.